Greetings everyone, and thanks for joining us on this paranormal pit stop. Tonight, we'll be exploring a prominent Greek revival style plantation home located off of Harding Pike out of Belle Meade near Nashville, Tennessee, that's often referred to as the Queen of Tennessee Plantations, and that was widely acclaimed for the horses it once produced. Surrounded in a wealth of ghost stories and purports of encounters with the supernatural, are you prepared to explore the history and hauntings of the Belle Meade historic site and winery? Historically, land now holding this prestigious location originally acted as a portion of a 640-acre preemption land grant under North Carolina to one David Dunham in 1786, after which, through the 1790s, Dunham would construct a log abode, which in 1807 was purchased under John Harding, along with the surrounding 250 acres or so. Harding would dub his new estate Belle Meade, and sadly would utilize formerly enslaved individuals to develop and work his lands. Through the 1820s, Harding would commission construction of the first red brick federal-style house near Richland Creek, and as John was working to develop a separate property in Arkansas, in 1839, his son, William Giles Harding, would take over management of Belle Meade. During this time, William would have a mausoleum fashioned for the interment of various family members. He would slowly start to acquire more lands for the purpose of livestock breeding, and at the height of it all, he'd end up with an overwhelming 5,400 acres, alongside a massive fortune. In 1853, William would enlarge the family abode and would redesign it in Greek revival, with stucco covering the original old red brick and a two-story veranda installed to the central structure. By the mid-19th century, the Hardings had earned renown amongst the wealthiest of landowning families in the region. However, their luck was about to change. On June 8th of 1861, Tennessee would mark the last state to secede from the Union, and naturally, Nashville would act as a Confederate headquarters. That is, until its sacking under Union forces in February of 1862. In December of 1864, the Battle of Nashville would transpire, during which a skirmish would break out right on the front lawn of Belle Meade, and would result in permanent bullet holes across its columns. When those formerly enslaved were finally set free in 1865, of the 136 people held at Belle Meade, 72 actually chose to stay on and work for pay under Harding. However, John would pass on in September of the same year, and under a mounting debt, the family would be forced to sell their estate in 1903. In 1906, the property was acquired under the Belle Meade Land Company, which was comprised of distant relatives. In 1910, it would be placed up for sale, and in the years following, new owners would begin redevelopment of the landscape, installing a number of streets and points of interest surrounding. Over time, the mansion would be preserved by a slew of private interests, and would host a total of 5 different families, until 1953, when it was purchased under the state of Tennessee, and subsequently deeded to the Association for the Preservation of Tennessee Antiquities. In the present, the Belle Meade Historic Site and Winery and its associated 30 acres of grounds remain open to the public, offering a range of educational materials, 10 outbuildings for exploration, the original 1790s Dunham Harding log cabin, their iconic winery, ample event space, and tours that roll every 30 to 40 minutes or so. Chillingly, the entirety of Belle Meade is rumored to be haunted by the spirits of various owners, of former staffing, and of those once enslaved across its bounds, and those frequenting the expanse have reported disembodied footsteps or voices heard from vacant rooms and halls, instances of doors opening and closing on their own as if an invisible presence is passing through them, and the constant feelings of being watched, of being followed, or even of being brushed up against by someone or something unseen. Several informal investigations of the property have yielded high EMF levels, chilling EVPs, and extreme temperature fluctuations, while others have told of objects spied moving about on their own, of inexplicable electrical malfunctions, and of encounters with full-bodied apparitions in clothing spanning the eras that wander around the house, often passing directly through closed doors or disappearing entirely. The final resting places of more than 130 formerly enslaved individuals is thought to lie somewhere on estate grounds, though it's unknown where, and some stories tell of run-ins with shadowy, shapeless masses that drift about that are thought to be the souls of said persons, seeking to be honored properly in death. Also reported across Belle Meade are accounts of alarms going off at random, a phenomenon which some speculate may be the spirit of William Giles Harding. William's first wife would pass on in childbirth, and legend tells that he and his second wife would also lose an infant daughter to illness. It's claimed William's restless spirit remains, pacing about the house and tripping alarms when he enters certain rooms to check on family that's been gone now for so long. Additionally, the ghost of a little brunette girl in an old-timey dress has been spied by tour-goers wandering over mansion grounds, and appears so real she's often mistaken for a living actress until she fades into thin air. Lastly, a more popular fable surrounding this weathered landscape intertwines with history to tell of one formerly enslaved man by the name of Robert, or Bob Green, who was just a boy when William Harding purchased him and brought him to his estate. William would keep Bob close and would teach him everything he knew about horses, resulting in Bob growing into a top expert on thoroughbreds. Though there should be no illusions regarding the travesty of slavery, as mentioned earlier, following emancipation of those formerly enslaved at Belle Meade, the jobs offered for pay under the Hardings were unparalleled for the region and era, hence so many who were formerly held there staying on afterwards for what were at the time deemed pretty decent wages. And as you might have already guessed it, Bob was one such person, and would even go on to act among the property's most respected and highest paid workers for the rest of his days, until his passing in 1906. Just before his death, Bob would request to be buried on the lands that he loved, right on plantation grounds, a request it's documented that was granted. And while his final resting place has since been lost to time, many local legends maintain his spirit remains, and a handful of accounts tell of encounters with an apparition bearing his likeness that often manifests at different ages, either tending tasks from life or even riding a spectral horse, a look of peace upon his face as he gazes off into the horizon. Thanks for tuning in for this Paranormal Pit Stop. If you enjoyed our histories and ghost stories, subscribe to our channel, like this upload, and share us with all of your friends. We'll catch you next time.